So the L.A. Rams get it done, man, and it was smooth. Man, just easy breezy. Just go right into Tampa Bay, hold on to a lead, and everything is good. Oops. 4 turnovers for the L.A. Rams, who seemed like they were trying everything they possibly could to give that game away. I don't know.
Sabotage.
Just unbelievable, man. The fumbles, the snap over the head. They were the better team by and large the entire day, and still we're sitting there tied. And I don't know what the coverage responsibility was. I leave that to you guys on the X's and O's stuff because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But that seems to be like not an ideal moment for a secondary when Cooper Kupp gets that wide open in that spot. Rough patch there for those guys.
Yeah, and another instance where you're kind of wondering, like, what the hell happened there. But it is Cooper Kupp. He's been the best wide receiver in the NFL this season. That's backed up by stats. That's not even an opinion. I think what you saw was exactly what Rams fans have seen at times this year, and they were able to put it together for about 3 quarters. But it almost – this is another game, 27-3, and you're going, there's no way you can come back from this, right? I mean, and Chris Collinsworth said this early in the game. He was kind of teasing and hinting at that, like, don't turn the channel, don't walk away. We've seen this story before. And sure enough, Tom Brady is able to help bring them back. And I think the tougher question in this game, because obviously the Rams are moving on, and we're going to have all week to talk about the Rams and their matchup in the NFC Championship game. But my question more surrounds the Bucs and whether or not this is indeed Tom Brady's last season. I've heard 2 things from I'll just call it reliable sources. The first was that there was a lot of people who came in town for this game who normally don't come in town. And you could get a sense from some of the people around the Tampa Bay organization that this indeed might be it. And I don't know that Tom is the type of guy that wants the goodbye tour, that wants to go to everywhere next year and kind of have all the players come up to him and say goodbye. I don't know that he cares and wants that. But I did hear there was a bunch of people in that suite who aren't normally there, and there was a reason behind that. That was one side of things. But I also heard he's conflicted because he has made the commitment to the team that he is going to play again next year. And that matters to him. He's a man of his word. He doesn't want to have something on the books contractually and then say, hey, I'm not going to be here for you guys. His head coach is going to be there. Bruce Arians has already come out and said he's going to be there next year. So I think there's that element of it too where maybe they try to give it one last go. But as we touched on in the first segment, it's something that you've got to wonder. It was easy to sell everyone when they said, run it back, right? That was their motto after the Super Bowl. It's easy to sell guys on that, saying run it back after you win. Let's go win 2 in a row. You didn't now. You didn't even get to the NFC Championship game. That might be a little bit harder, where guys feel like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't know if we've got, the formula, the right pieces. I'd rather go try to get my last biggest payday instead of taking less in order to have a chance to win another one. And maybe I'm wrong in that. Maybe they say, I want to stay with Tom Brady for another year. That's a rare opportunity to be able to do that. Maybe a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do that as a player. But I do wonder how that factors in, losing and not making it to the NFC Championship game versus that pitch after you win a Super Bowl.
It may be dictated by what the Rams do. If the Rams end up winning it, then you can look at it and say, you know what, we lost to the eventual champ. And there's no shame in that. Let's get back to work and let's see what we can get done. I agree with you on the aspect of you have to ask yourself the question, if you've positioned yourself to give yourself a contractual opportunity that sets you up much better than what you already are, do you pass that up? Do you pass that up for what has been sold with the run it back scenario? Some of these guys, I think they will. I mean, but some of them you just don't know. The culture of it says that more often than not, guys might end up on a team that isn't even that good just to get that payday and get that paycheck. And there are a few guys that are good enough to go get those type of paychecks elsewhere. So I think that's going to be a challenge for them. I think they were able to do it last year under obvious. Well, I won't even say last year was obvious, to be honest. I think that Tom is a great sell to get guys to stay around. But That's improbable. I think that was the first time that's ever happened in modern day National Football League history. So to say that would happen again this year, and to honestly ask yourself, what additions do you have to make, and can you make those additions with the current roster in place and the current structure of what the salary cap represents for them?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. If he walks away now, I'm going to be pissed off. Had he done it a couple of years ago, I swear to God, had he done it a couple of years ago after New England, I would have been like, you know what? I get it. It seems like getting a little bit older, starting to show his age. Why would you walk away now? I get he's 44. I understand, he's accomplished everything he wants to accomplish. But at the level he's playing at,
That's all. Why? Just keep playing. You've done everything you can do. Just keep playing.
Why walk away? If you can still do it, why would you walk away? And if he's still doing it at a high level, why walk away now? Like, how many quarterbacks in the NFL, and factor, forget about age, but how many quarterbacks in the NFL are you taking to win a game right now over Tom Brady? Is it more than 2 or 3?
No.
If that?
No.
So why would you walk away?
Two of them were playing last night's game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
After that, I'm not sure there's anyone. You throw Aaron Rodgers into the conversation, but I think even some people would push back considering, his postseason, record and career and how it's gone, where it just seems like for, a guy like Patrick Mahomes or guys like Tom Brady, they find a way to bring their team back. They find a way to get the job done almost every time. This being that exception.
I look at it and I go, man, I know he wants to play till 45. That was his target age. He turns 45 in August. I want nothing more than to see him go out there at his target age, continue to have an amazing season, and then if he walks after that, it's all good. But I don't know.
Are you going to bring Giselle into the conversation? Because at some point,
What if they hit their ceiling?
And that could be true.
Yeah.
Like that's a question that I think a lot of players are probably asking themselves. And Tom knows better than anyone else how hard it is to win a Super Bowl. And I mean, what they say? This is the first time. Well, this is the second time in the last decade he hasn't made it to the championship game. Is that right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Which is just absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, think about honestly, I was on one team that made it to the playoffs. One team over the span of 7 years.
I mean, me too.
LaVar, think about that for a second, though.
You saw my text message yesterday. I have no right to talk about any winners because I have not won in the league.
Think about how ridiculous it is. It's not even a matter of if he gets to the playoffs. It's a matter of, so are you going to a Super Bowl or not? Because over the past decade, he pretty much goes to a Super Bowl every year. It's just whether or not he wins one. It's absolutely absurd. Like, when I was looking at that stat thinking, my God, like, how lucky are all the players that have played with him? Where you look around the locker room and you just go, okay, let's get to work. We're working for a Super Bowl. You can when every team says that as a goal at the beginning of the season, you're kind of sitting there thinking, yeah, but do we have a really chance of winning a Super Bowl? And then, like, Tom Brady walks in and you go, oh yeah, no, we're good. Like, we're at least going to be in the conference championship game.
It's
those gassers and that bench press. It hits a little different when, like, Tom Brady's your quarterback and you're like, what am I doing this? Oh yeah, it's because I'm gonna go to Super Bowl at some point here.
I mean, he's had 3 Hall of Fame careers. His 20s, 30s, and 40s all are enough to go to the Hall of Fame. If you just took those individually. All enough.
You're still not answering my question because at some point Giselle and the family comes into play.
I know. And also, if he walks away now, isn't that sort of an indictment on where the team is at or where they're headed? Because do you think he walks away if he feels like this team's got, a real opportunity? Or to LaVar's point, this team, had they hit their ceiling, does he walk away if he doesn't believe that?
Well,
I don't think that's the case.
That's why you got to bring Giselle into the conversation, though. Because if they may enjoy it. I know there's the whole idea of being away from your family and different things like that. But I'll tell you what, the treatment and the amenities that come with being a franchise player are pretty freaking phenomenal. I mean, it is. I don't know that there's ever been a time in our lives, like my married life, where the treatment in the city, in the stadium, game days, everything, the amount of help and love that you receive from your community, from the team, from the fan base. I don't know that it can ever be matched. And she's a celebrity herself. Now, if they're tired of just being, because that's the next level fame. If they're just tired of being in that limelight and they're tired of dealing with everything that goes along with, because it is also a process, that entire going into game day for a family is an entire process, especially because of, how school works and different things like that. So, I think that it's a valid question that has to be asked. At what point does Tom look at her, and what point does Giselle look at him, and they say, it's about time for us to handle what we need to do, with the next generation of Bradys that are coming through.
I'll tell you what I don't want to see, because he's played so long, and to your point, Jonas, he's had 3 Hall of Fame careers. I don't want him to keep playing, to your like earlier point of, he could still do it. I don't want him to keep playing until like the wheels fall off. You know what I'm saying? Where you're
retire.
Like, all of a sudden
retire.
there's a younger generation that looks at him and they're like, man, Tom Brady stunk. And you're like, you shut your mouth, kid. You shut your mouth, all right?
Like Peyton Manning.
We'll never see a quarterback like that. Yeah, well, kind of Peyton towards the end, we're like, what do you mean Peyton can't throw the football? You're like, you shut your mouth, kid. I will whoop you right now in public if you say those words again. Like, I don't want it to get to that point. And I do think – I think there's the potential where the way he takes care of himself, everything else. But I would weigh, the older he gets, there's a lot of things that factor into it. But I'd rather see him, if you wanted to call it a career now, than if he comes back next season and gets hurt or has an injury or, can't be healthy for the entire season. You look at the way like Peyton was in his final season, Drew Brees was. You start to factor in some of those players and guys, you go, man, there's no doubt they're first ballot Hall of Famers. There's no doubt. But then you get to this point where you go, but it didn't end the way you'd hoped, right? You didn't end on that high note, like that John Elway send-off where everyone just remembers him doing the helicopter. On the field, not off the field, Jonas. I know you got excited.
Say, that's a bummer. I mean, way to ruin my morning. I was trying to, way to ruin my morning here.
Like a Brett Favre.
That's a good
I wonder
point.
if he tried to reenact it in another place.
That's
okay, never mind.
that's a very good point there.